it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Miss Barbara Carson, and I know I just heard Barb. I have to say Barb, right? She's not in trouble. She is the Deputy Associate Administrator for the Office of Government Contracting and Business Development at the U.S. Small Business Administration. At SBA, she addresses all small business contracting and business development matters relating to the federal contracting spend with small businesses, which exceeds $100 billion. Good number. Barb began her service at SBA in 2013 as an Associate Administrator, Office of Veterans Business Development, where she empowered veteran, military, spouse, and service member entrepreneurship. Barb is also a colonel in the U.S. Air Force Reserve, very impressive, assigned to the office of the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. She has over 20 years of active duty and reserve experience in nuclear command and control and public affairs with assignments across the United States, Japan, and Europe. So join me not only in welcoming her, but also thanking her for her continued service.
Thank you, Julie, very much. I think you just heard about 10 different ways you could make money and do better business in Maryland, thanks to Julie, and that's incredible. So thank you for the introduction, too. I hope I can bring you the same. I'm thankful first for my partners who are here. Antonio Das, you heard from this morning at the U.S. Small Business Administration. Soon after I speak, and it won't take long, I'm not a traditional keynote, I'd like to keep it conversational, you'll meet more of my colleagues who are going to help those of you who are not yet HUBZone certified but want to be. The next thing that you need to do after hearing all this great information is take the next step. 2 of them are going to be out there. 1 is getting certified, and the 2nd is finding your workforce, because if you're successful, you're going to need a good team. The University of Maryland has amazing programs and people, and that's one of the reasons I'm here today, is to learn from them. We always look for best practices, things that we would replicate across the United States, and I think there are some of those elements right here. And then particularly the reason I'm here is that HUBZone really calls to my heart. Ruben, who was on a panel earlier today, mentioned that you gotta want to make an impact. I happen to have served in the military. That was my first public service. But many of us serve our communities, and HUBZone is certainly the one that stands out. Among the federal programs for federal procurement is one of those ways to continue to give back to your community while also building your own individual success. So it's meaningful to me to be a part of HUBZone family, and it feels like family here. I did want to share a little bit about the ecosystem in case you didn't know how much of the opportunity, how much of that pie of the $100 billion in federal spend, how much of it is coming to Maryland. In 17, it was $11 billion, and it created over 61,000 jobs for Americans who live here in Maryland, which is incredible. You might be surprised, but perhaps you're not, that the part of the pie that goes to HUBZone is much smaller. It was $545 million in Maryland in 2017. I absolutely see room for that to grow. I'm certain that you are the right people to make that happen. We need to get that done. And some of it is from the advice that you heard earlier. I'll touch on that in a moment, but I want to stay on the dollars for a minute because, okay, we can be altruistic, but the dollars do matter. So I took a look at the top 10 HUBZone firms in Maryland, and one of them in 1 year got $125 million in HUBZone awards. That's the #1 HUBZone business in Maryland in 17. The number 10 business got $10 million in contracts. What I would like to look at deeper when I go back is the thing that I'm hearing from each of you. These HUBZone companies are winning, but they aren't winning just on HUBZone often, and they aren't winning on set-asides, not at the numbers that we should be seeing for the things that the federal government intended. There's too much complexity, many hurdles, and we really need to make a change in that. HUBZone Council and many of you individually are letting us know that, and more importantly, you need to let your legislators know that, because there's only so much the U.S. Small Business Administration can do to reduce the burden to you. So now I will take a step back, and why would you have somebody from DC come? I admit that we don't always have the best ideas coming, generating from headquarters. That's not where people usually go in an organization to get the newest, the best. And that's probably right. That's why I'm out here, to hear from you. So keep that in mind, because I am going to ask you through things at the end, and I do have a call to action for you. And it's unusual that I was chosen for this job at headquarters. I am not an acquisitions professional. You heard my career. I sat in a silo and could make really hard decisions in 3 minutes or less about the future of our world with nuclear weapons. I'm also a public affairs officer, and I do have a great background now at SBA. But I was chosen for government contracting and business development for you, really to improve the customer experience. I'm going to tell you what that is about. Improve our operations and to ensure that I reduce risk to the government, and that actually will benefit you. The less risky you are and our programs are, the more likely you're going to have federal agencies doing business with you. And that really has been a stumbling block for some things in the HUBZone program, to be honest. So if you were going to judge me and my success on customer experience, and I'm open to hearing what you define that as, but for this program, it would be reducing the processing time from the time that you say that you want to be a certified firm by any of the certification programs in SBA. I need to bring down that time for you so that you know you're going to be competitive for those things you're looking to compete for. I need to see fewer of you dropping out of the application process. We've got folks who either are not ready for the opportunities ahead, and I'll tell you, the certification process shouldn't be the hardest thing you're doing in federal procurement. If it is, well, first, I probably have a problem with the application process, but you may not be ready yet for the process ahead of you that is even harder than just getting in. And finally, I need us to be accessible and helpful. I know that the panel of federal agencies said they're here to tell you things, but they're not the ones who are actually going to help you, and that's true often. But how many can we reduce that connection time from someone who you ask a question to getting to that human or the information that's going to help you take action? That's a part of the customer experience that I care deeply about. And I'd encourage you to reach out to me. And when you do, as the panel of feds said before, be specific. Have something you want to get in touch about, not just to have a conversation. I'll tell you that I did an event for HUBZone in Huntsville last month. I probably took home 100 cards and lots of those same commitments. Let's follow up. I want to talk about that. I've already had 4 in-person meetings with people who thought enough that they wanted to come and see me in person, who followed up via email, about 10 more, but they had really specific things. They'd already thought about what is her role, what can she do for me, or what does she know that I don't know? So I would just ask you to do that as you think about the day, and I've heard several speakers mention that. Be ready for the next step and be purposeful about it. All right, and finally, outcomes would be the other thing that I'm being judged on, and I don't do it alone, but I need to see more unique DUNS numbers, meaning more new companies getting contracts in federal government spend, and that is not happening. We are getting fewer of you staying interested in doing business with the federal government, and even fewer new companies standing up and saying, I want to be a part of that. I think that's where I can find success. And that's concerning. We've seen this cycle before when small businesses, for whatever reason, are not able to participate or choose not to. It's easier for the largest to come in, do that job until they either are not interested in or it's not profitable, and either get out of the business or raise the price. So I need it to keep an environment where we can continue to compete as small businesses and find opportunity. So getting those unique businesses in. And then increasing our spend. Right now we're at $105 billion last year. The last year was 2017 that we measured. 2018 is going to be released just around the corner, and it's looking pretty good. Unfortunately, I cannot say anything publicly about that yet, but it's significant. The problem, if it is a problem to make more money, is that, as I said, fewer companies are making that money. That small business goal is being met by fewer companies. I really need your help there. And subcontracting is one of the answers, but it's competing. It's like trying to swim into the waves of category management, best in class, and the potential futures of what's happening with the 809 panel, for example, at DoD. So just know that you've got strong advocates who are paying attention to what's happening and are ready to fight for you, but I need your voices in that. All right, so that was a whole bunch of customer experience and outcomes on what I'm here and what I can hope to achieve. What I'd like to talk about specifically for HUBZone is what you're doing right now, which is navigating this tough situation, these tough conditions, and what are we doing about it? I'd like to compliment Shirley and the HUBZone Council and then many of the local leaders for really digging in and not complaining about it, but having note the problem, but don't admire the problem, and then do something about it. So getting together and finding the solutions in your own area is a huge step, and I think you're on the right track. At headquarters, what we're trying to do is make it more appealing for you companies to come and be HUBZone certified. You're going to meet Takesha and Diane, who are out here, working closely with the PTAC. Did you know that you could have an accelerated application processing time if you worked with a PTAC before getting your HUBZone certification? Anybody know that yet? It's one of the benefits out there. Why are we doing that? First, it might sound unfair that everybody should have the same shot when you enter, first in, first out. That has been our traditional processing. However, for us, it's super inefficient. We have everybody applying. 47% of the applications I get are not making it to the place where they're actually being analyzed. They're either clearly not eligible or they're submitting incomplete packages. That is keeping people who are ready to get into the fight from being certified, because I'm spending half the time looking at folks that aren't ready. One way that we're testing, is training our PTACs that we work closely with. They're not an SBA resource. They are Department of Defense Logistics Agency, pardon. But if you work with them and you're not yet HUBZone certified, they will work with you until you're procurement ready. So would your SBDCs. But I'm telling you, if you come with a screening tool that can be uploaded with your application from the PTAC that says, this person has been here, they've done the work, they're procurement ready, and they almost validate this application's ready to go, that's going to SBA faster. It's going through SBA faster. So please consider doing that and working with your PTACs. They're amazing. Also unique to HUBZone is office hours. We're testing it in a few other programs now, but they were out there first. That is incredibly meaningful. You can talk to people who run our programs, and unfortunately there aren't many of us. There are 17 people total to run the entire HUBZone program at SBA. And they, like Antonio has folks on his team who are also expert. If you want to talk to the people who are actually running the program, you get 2 times a week to do that. I encourage you to take advantage of that. We're also out in events, and we're advocating for you. Really quickly, we touched on it today, and many of you are experienced, but there are 3 big changes that are coming in the HUBZone regulations, hopefully by the end of this year. One was about the maps locking down for longer. The other is about the whole intent of a HUBZone program success is to build communities where not all the opportunity resides right now, make them better. One piece of evidence could be that an employee of a HUBZone firm is so successful, they choose to have a home outside the HUBZone area. If these rules go into effect as proposed, you would be able to continue counting a HUBZone employee of yours even if they moved out of the HUBZone, as long as they continue to be employed by you. You created their success. You shouldn't be punished for their choice to move into a different neighborhood. I think that's going to be fantastic. And the last one, this one is, I haven't quite imagined yet the burden of paperwork for us and for you. But if by looking at HUBZone firms once a year and saying within that time frame, as long as you were eligible, the one time we looked at you, you're good. At the time you bid, at the time you're awarded, SBA has taken a look at you, and we reduce that number of times you've got to have all the right 35%. Hopefully that reduces the risk both to the federal agencies and to the HUBZone firm, that scramble. And I'm looking to Shirley to say, Shirley, did I miss anything? And the annual recertification, which is the whole point. There is a bit more burden, but it reduces the uncertainty for both you and the federal government on whether you're eligible at the time. So I hope that we can all manage through the change together. They're pretty great changes. I'm going to transition. I want to finish up because I really do want to get you out there to talk to people who are going to build your workforces and help you get certified. But there are a few hot topics that come up, and I might be able to answer some of your questions, and I'm going to stick around afterward because I'd like you to just get out there, like I said. One is subcontracting. That you heard it mentioned this morning, that there are many of you who have been, honestly, you've been the sub. You go in on that proposal, and then for whatever reason, you don't end up being the ones that perform the work. We're working on defining what is a good faith effort to follow a subcontracting plan. It's been a little too loose. Let's tighten that up. The GAO is soon going to begin auditing subcontracting plans and SBA's role in that. Unfortunately, I believe they think we can enforce. We cannot. This is a place where the executive branch alone may not be able to do all that needs to be done with subcontracting. If this is the place where people actually have a chance to become federal contractors, we've got to tighten up who gets credit for it, who's complying with it, and what are the consequences. We need some carrots and we need some sticks here, and this one is a big one on my plate that I haven't figured out what are all the levers I have available to me and what help I need. But this one, we've got to do better. The other hot topics, I mentioned them already: category management, BICs, and the 809 panel. The best in class is the BIC. Those small businesses doing really well on those, but if you look just one level deeper, you'll see that the small businesses who get on a BIC are doing wonderful, but there are so few, or perceived to be so few, that if you're not on it, you're not getting it. And we see that in many other contracting vehicles. I know it's not unique, but we're worried about not only is it just a small pot for very few, it's that they're quickly going to size out, potentially. And I need to be refreshing and making opportunities for new companies to get on. There's still a lot to be done there, and more analysis. So I bring up a hot topic again without a solution in mind, but I want you to know what I'm focused on. Next one is next week. I anticipate the women-owned small business rule proposed is going to be out for public comment. As you may know, there's a certification program that we must stand up in 2020. So for those of you who are women-owned small businesses, right now you have the opportunity to self-certify or go through a third-party certifier. I really would appreciate your comment. Nobody reads the Federal Register, I think, every morning, but this is the time to look out for it. And I'll make sure that the folks who organize this event get the word on when that rule is out so they can get it out to all of you who are here. And then the Runway Extension Act. Is anyone even tracking that? A couple of our policy people are. This one, there are smalls, especially within 8A, but there are other places who can get concerned about sizing out of your NAICS code. This proposal, it's actually law now, the SBA just needs to implement it, would look at revenue over 5 years instead of 3. The concern could be that some who are almost on their way out to being large are now going to be able to stay in the pool longer. And you're going to have almost what would now be medium to large businesses still competing as small. And those of you who are smalls are going to be having a hard time competing with those who are still bigger but in the pool with you. So keep an eye on that and its implementation and its potential effect for you. You have a question on that? The Women-Owned Small Business Program, her question was, how's that going to change? Right now, there are 2 tracks. You are allowed to self-certify, or you can go through a third-party certifier. When the program stands up, there will be no more self-certification. All right. If you're self-certified now, you will have to get certified. And I expect that the program will stand up by June 30th of 2020. So this is the time to comment as soon as it goes public next week on how that program should look. And I can't say, as I said, it'll start in June of 2020. There's no way that I can foresee that SBA has the capacity to certify all the women who are currently self-certified and make them certified. So if you are planning to compete, women-owned small business, I'd start looking at those third-party certifiers now. Get your certification now there, and you've got choices, because likely I'm going to need to look at a way to grandfather in those for a period of time who are already certified by a third-party certifier while I try to manage the new influx of women who are not yet certified at all. Another question? Yeah, go ahead. Emily's question was, have we thought about adding more certifiers? And your timing is perfect because public comment is where this happens. And those of you who have been through anything where you've commented on a reg, the government has to respond to every comment we get. You don't have to go through some big organization to have your voice heard. So I say that not only for the women's rules, but for others that are going to come out. We have to address every comment we receive, and that's an important one. Any other questions on that? I told you it wasn't a typical keynote. I'm sorry. I'm still talking, but we're going to take questions whenever they pop up. I'll just wrap it up, though. No, I'm good. I think I'm good. I want people to get out. So I told you I was going to ask you a few things at the end. Because my job is to make things better for you, in hopes that making things better for you makes it easier for the government to spend money with you and get what we need, meet our requirements, I really want to hear what's working, what's not, and more importantly, what would you propose to do about it? So like I said, I'll stick around. My email is really easy because our naming convention is barbara.carson@sba.gov. If you put HUBZone Maryland in the subject line, I'll know where you came from. So that'll help me, and it'll also help your organizers. I can let them know who asked what. And then help me help you. Please be counted. I cannot overstate the importance of responding when agencies are looking to see who's out there to compete. HUBZone opportunities are not going to get better or set aside unless they know you're out there. And there is a myth that continues to be pervasive that there are only certain NAICS code in which there are enough HUBZones to compete. It's changing. It's changing enough that we may want to approach GSA about a schedule again for just HUBZone. But I need to show and demonstrate that you're there, that you're ready for the work. So please help me do that. I just want to end on that. I think you've heard so many things, but hearing it doesn't make a difference unless you know what to do with the knowledge you just picked up. So please go out there and connect with the people who are at the tables because they are the ones who are going to help you take that next step. And I'll give that special plug to my DC team of SBA who are in the corner, to Keisha and Diane out in the back where you came in. You can't even leave without going by them. They'll help you get certified. And then get your workforce assistance as well. Thank you so much, Anne, Shirley, and the University of Maryland for the chance to talk with you. I look forward to working with you. I really mean it.